I have given the house to God. Pastor Fode showed me that property in this world means nothing. My place in heaven is now secure.
Our family house stood tall in the east end of Freetown, with coconut trees in the compound and the smell of cassava leaf stew always floating through the air. My grandmother, Mama Isata, had lived in that house for 50 years. She raised 8 children there, buried 2 husbands there, and everyone in the Krobe neighborhood knew that house belonged to our blood. We called it the foundation, not just because it was built with strong red bricks, but because everything our family was, our laughter, our funerals, our naming ceremonies, happened inside those 4 walls. Nobody ever thought, not even in a dream, that one day we would stand outside those walls with nowhere to go. It started the year Mama Isata turned 78. A new church opened 3 streets away in Wellington, a loud church with big speakers and a pastor who wore white every single day. Pastor Fode came to visit Mama Isata one afternoon with a bottle of olive oil and a wide smile. He sat in her parlor, prayed loudly, and called her Chosen One. After that day, Pastor Fode came every week, then every 3 days, then almost every day. He would sit with Mama Isata for hours while the rest of us were at work or school. We thought it was kind. An old woman needed company. We did not yet understand that the spider was slowly spinning its web. Within 6 months, Mama Isata stopped attending the family church she had gone to for 40 years. She stopped cooking the Saturday jollof rice and fried plantain she made every week without fail. She started speaking differently, using words like spiritual inheritance and earthly attachment as sin. These were not her words. These were borrowed words. My mother Aminata noticed first. She told my Uncle Sheku, "Something is wrong with Mama. She looks at us like we are strangers." Uncle Sheku laughed and said old women sometimes become more religious with age. He did not listen. None of the men listened. And while they were not listening, Pastor Fode was whispering. One Tuesday morning in October, Mama Isata was taken to a lawyer's office in Wilberforce Street by Pastor Fode and 2 women from the church. Nobody in our family was told. Nobody was invited. Mama Isata, who could barely read her own name anymore, pressed her thumb onto a document that signed the family house over to the Heavenly Grace Redemption Ministry. We only found out because our neighbor Auntie Kadiatu saw them driving away in the pastor's big car and thought it was strange. By the time the sun set that evening, the deed to our family home, the house built by our grandfather Alhaji Baimba's own hands, now had the church's name on it. And Mama Isata came home smiling, saying God had finally spoken to her heart. Mama Isata gathered us after dinner that same Tuesday. The room was full. My mother Aminata, my 4 uncles, their wives, and us children sitting on the floor. She sat in her old wooden chair like a queen and said very calmly, "I have given the house to God. Pastor Fode showed me property in this world means nothing. My place in heaven is now secure." The silence that followed was the loudest silence I have ever heard in my life. Then my Uncle Sheku stood up slowly and asked, "Mama, wetin you don't do?" And she looked at him with those cloudy eyes and said, "Wetin God tell me for do." My mother Aminata did not shout. She did not cry that night. She just walked to the kitchen and we had her quietly breaking down, alone, where she thought nobody could hear.
By morning, the house was divided in a way that no wall could divide it. Uncle Sheku said Mama Isata had lost her mind and they would go to court. My Aunt Mariama said you cannot fight a church or God will punish you. My mother Aminata said nothing. She just started quietly packing our things into bags because she knew the road ahead would be long. The family fought for 3 weeks without sleeping. Some blamed Pastor Fode. Some blamed each other for not watching Mama Isata closely. Some even blamed my mother Aminata, saying she should have been home more instead of working double shifts at Konat Hospital.
grief makes people say cruel things. And underneath all the cruelty was one simple truth. They had lost the foundation, and they did not know who they were without it. 40 days after the document was signed, 3 men from the church arrived at our door in Kisii with a letter. It said the property now legally belonged to the Heavenly Grace Redemption Ministry, and the current occupants had 30 days to vacate. They were polite men. They wore ties. They spoke softly, but they were delivering a sword wrapped in silk. My mother Aminata read the letter twice, folded it neatly, and placed it on the table. She looked at me and my sister Fatmata and said, "Start packing what matters." I was 13 years old. Fatmata was 9. We did not fully understand what was happening, but we understood the sound of our mother's voice when she was trying not to fall apart. We packed quietly and quickly, like soldiers following orders in a war we did not start. For 4 months, we lived in my Uncle Lansana's 2-room apartment in Calabar town. 9 people in a space built for 3. We slept on the floor, cooked in shifts, and learned the particular shame of depending on someone who did not fully want you there. Uncle Lansana was not a bad man, but a man who feeds 9 extra mouths eventually runs out of kindness and patience at the same time. I watched my mother Aminata during those months and saw something I had never seen before. I saw her become small. This was a woman who walked tall, spoke boldly, and never asked anyone for help. But sleeping on another woman's kitchen floor changes something inside a person. I promised myself, lying on that cold floor at night, that I would never let my family be without a roof again. That promise became the fire that never went out inside me. The elders of Freetown are not blind, even when they are quiet. Word spread about what Pastor Fode had done, not just to our family, but to 2 other elderly widows in the same year in the East End. A council of community leaders from the Tribal Headmen Authority called a meeting at the community hall. They invited the pastor. He came in his white clothes, smiling his wide smile. But this time, there was a lawyer from Siaka Stevens Street in the room and a doctor from Connaught Hospital who had examined Mama Isata and written a report saying she showed signs of memory confusion and was vulnerable to suggestion. The church did not want the Sierra Leone police involved. A quiet agreement was reached. The house was not fully returned. These things are never simple. But a settlement was made that gave our family something to rebuild with. Pastor Fode left Freetown within the month. The big speakers went quiet, and the church building later became a community learning center for children. God, it seems, has a sense of justice after all. We did not get the house back exactly as it was. Some things once broken heal into a different shape. But our family used the settlement to rent a proper home in Marytown. And my mother Aminata, that same woman who went small on a kitchen floor in Calabar town, saved enough within 5 years to buy us a place of our own. She put the deed in all our names, every single child and grandchild, so that no one person could ever give it away again. Mama Isata lived 3 more years after everything happened. Near the end, when her mind was clearer, she would sometimes look at my mother Aminata with wet eyes and say, "Forgive an old woman who was fooled by a smooth tongue." My mother would hold her hand and say, "You are still our foundation, Mama Isata. Walls can be replaced." That is the thing about family. The house is not the home, the people are. And no pastor, no document, no thumbprint on a paper can ever take that away from you.